Good Friday morning. It is a feel-good Friday. Lots of basketball last night, some tournament action. The Knicks losing a really, really bad one, and Julius Randle going nuts. The Nets losing a bad one that could have helped out the Knicks, but now things getting a little bit tight for the Knicks when it comes to the 5 seed. The Jets trying to put together one of these super teams and maybe going too far if they add another veteran who might be washed up. Feel good Friday, Booer. Good morning. How are you?
You know what? I do feel good. I feel good because my hockey team looked a lot better last night, and they came back and they gave you 3 periods, and it was a great game, back and forth. And they
nobody cares about hockey, Boomer.
They took down the Hurricanes 2-1, but it was a great game last night. It was intense. So in between the games, I'm going back and forth with the Knicks game.
Yeah.
And, the Knicks just basically laid an egg last night. Absolutely laid an egg. And it was the same old thing when they get into these little ruts. Number one, Jalen Brunson is not there. And number two, which seems like we've been talking about it now for 4 freaking years, is our buddy, Julius Randle, decides to snap again.
Yep.
And he has one of these freaking meltdowns. And I'm just going to say, he may be a good player. He may even be somewhat of a quasi, just on the outside rung of being a great player because of the numbers and the points and the rebounds and what he does. But, man, it's getting exhausting. It had already been exhausting, and now it's just to the point where it's like, man, come on, dude. We're never going to win with you. We're never. And
well,
then
if you're acting like that, yeah.
Well, but the problem is, I give him 5 times to act like that. This is like time number 20.
And especially when it's always directed towards the officials, and then a lot of times there's teammates. You saw it last year when he was swatting away Evan Fournier. You saw it last night where Emmanuel Quickly, who's a much younger player, is acting more mature and trying to get Julius to calm down to not get a technical foul. And he's like, don't touch me. Then he gets right up in his face like he's about to fight his own teammate over this. I mean, how about bringing that same type of energy to the opponent as opposed to the officials every single night and your teammate? So it's harnessing emotions. I love the fact that he's that into it, but it's harnessing emotions. And I don't think it's any surprise that this happened again without Jalen Brunson on the court.
The other thing, too, is that, and I don't know if you saw this, I think it was 2 or 3 games ago, he had another meltdown.
Yeah, of course.
And like Josh Hart's out there going, what? What are we doing? Like Josh Hart has only been here for 5 weeks.
Sure.
And he's already seen like 3 meltdowns. And it gets to a point where it's just too exhausting on everybody. It's exhausting on the coach. It's exhausting on his teammates. They like what he's playing well and he's into it and everything's good. He's fine, and I'm sure they really like him. But man, when he gets into these fogs, and I know it's got to be a psychological thing.
Well, I think
there's got to, and this is the guy. I'm sorry, G. This is the guy around the All-Star game that basically came clean as to what his issues were last year and how the assistant coach, I forget which one, talked him through his actions and how they impact everybody else. And he sounded like he really finally, truly understood. Now, he may have some issues at home or something. I mean, I don't know. But all I know is that he's paid to play basketball. And he's the best player on the team. Well, Jalen Brunson's the best player, but he's one of the best players on the team, and he's one of the leaders on the team. And this is like the last thing that you want here in the last 1/8 of the season, where they have like 10 games left or something. And you don't want your star player just absolutely snapping every other night.
And especially when you remember the last time the Knicks were in the playoffs and he melted down against the Atlanta Hawks, and you're about to have another playoff run. You're thinking, what Julius Randle are we going to get? And I just think that he gets in these anger situations, these emotional situations, and he is continuing to lose it, not being able to harness that emotion. Now, if you say it's one time or he loses it, or
but it's not.
It's continuing, and that's the problem. It's not. He's not fixing it.
They have to get rid of him. This is it. This is the end of it.
We'll see how he does in the playoffs this year.
I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Yes, it does matter.
I'll tell you, it doesn't matter.
If this team somehow magically gets, and I don't believe this is going to happen, but magically gets to an Eastern Conference final and he plays great and he's the all-star player that he can be, then they're not going to get rid of him. But if they get bounced in the first round by either Philadelphia or Cleveland.
It's exhausting for everybody on the team. It's exhausting for his teammates. It's exhausting for the coaching staff. it's just too much.
Yeah.
It's, again, like if it's once or twice a year, I can understand that. But what is this? This is 11th technical foul now.
Yeah, right.
And we were talking about this going into the year about how he was going to kind of harness that energy and use it positively on the basketball court. I just, when I saw this last night, because I had flipped over and it was, they were going on and getting ready to go to halftime. And then I saw that meltdown. I was like, I don't even want to watch this anymore.
Yeah.
I am tired of watching like this. I don't even know how to explain the behavior. I don't know if it's anger management. I don't know if it's, I don't know what it is.
I mean, the way he's just pushing away Emmanuel quickly and then gets in his face in the way that he did. Like, I mean, he really looked like he was going to punch him. I was like, this is your teammate. This is your guy. Like, I understand you're frustrated, but don't take it out on him. What he's trying to do is protect you. I mean, it's really one thing when you're yelling at the referees. It's another thing when you turn that anger on your teammates, especially when you're having the year that you're having. And then of course, Tom Thibodeau in the post game, he's like, well, it happens, and you have a conversation and blah blah blah. I mean, they've been protecting this guy way too much. I mean, come out and just be like, that can't happen. We got a young player out there who's trying to get him to calm down. Julius Randle should be the leader. He should be the more mature guy. Emmanuel quickly was being the more mature guy, and Julius has got to stop this crap. What's so bad about saying that?
Well, here's the deal. They haven't said it. They won't say it, and it's going to continue to happen.
I mean, this guy isn't LeBron.
Like,
you know what I'm saying?
No, it's just done.
Like,
they
don't have to protect him in that way.
Enough already. Enough. I mean, they'll obviously, there's nothing they can do right now. But this offseason, they have got to get rid of him. They have got to get rid of him. They're never going to win with him because of these outbursts. It's really a shame, too. It really is, because he had kind of rehabilitated, whatever, the Knicks fan didn't like what they saw last year. They kind of rehabilitated that, and I think Jalen Brunson had a lot to do with that. But, if you're sitting there and you're Jalen Brunson and you're watching, you're going, this is like, it's too much. I mean, you know how much heavy lifting you have to do, and you walk around on eggshells on your teammate? And then I'm sure maybe after the game you went and goes, hey, guys, I'm sorry again. How many times?
Sure, right. And this
How many?
Right, and this one crossed the line. And this is another example, as I mentioned last year. Remember when he swatted Evan Fournier's hand away, and I was like, oh, my God. And then he did this with quickly. I mean, when he turns on his teammates like that, that's going to cause issues in the locker room. Now, I don't think the Knicks are in love with Julius Randle. That's the problem. Like, I'm not saying I disagree with you, and if he's great in the playoffs, and he's definitely going to stay, but if they get bounced in the first round, he has another meltdown, then they're going to have to do something about it. But
you're the executives of the Knicks. Forget about the team for a second.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of great players over the years get traded. We've seen a lot of players who are disgruntled get traded. It's business. It's the business of sports.
Especially in the NBA, yeah.
Right. Well, the NBA, an individual player can really impact a team either positively or negatively. And this is kind of a weird thing because it's a 50-50 thing with him. There's like 4 or 5 games he'll go off. He scored over 50 points the other night, and everybody will celebrate that. And then 2 games later, he's melting down again. I mean, to me, that screams of psychiatric problems.
He can't control his emotions on the court.
And again, he spoke about it around the All-Star game, and I thought, okay, all right, so he's unbelievably open about it, so why not give him a chance and let's see if he can control his emotions again this year. And it's gotten worse since the All-Star game. It was fine leading up to it, and I think that was because of Jalen Brunson fitting in. But man, I'm telling you, if I were his teammate, I'd be like, enough already. We're losing to these crappy teams.
Yeah,
and
which was terrible.
We cannot. How many bad teams that they lost to? Like they get up for Boston. They play. The Clippers tough. They play the Lakers tough.
Sure.
And then they lose to like Charlotte and they lose to Orlando.
Yeah.
The Miami loss I get, they're probably very similar in teams.
Miami's right on their heels, by the way, for the 5 seed.
I know. And now this comes again. I mean, what are you supposed to do here?
Well,
I think if you're the Knicks,
you got to keep playing them. I mean,
no, I know. Right now, yes, they're going to play him through the playoffs. Of course, I'm not saying that they're going to sit him. They're not going to. Now is not the time to punish him. The time to do something is to get rid of him in the off season. Enough. There's too much heavy lifting again for everybody around him, and I hate saying that. I really do, because I want this team going into the playoffs on a high note. And maybe they will. Maybe they'll turn it around the last week of the season or something. And they'll start beating some of the teams that they have on their roster. I mean, they got Houston on Monday, and then they got Miami at home. Then they got to go at Cleveland, Washington, Indiana, New Orleans, Indiana. I mean, so it's not like they're ending up with murderers row here.
No, certainly not. But it doesn't really seem who they play that matters when they're playing like that, or if Jalen Brunson is out and Julius Randle's losing his mind, because you just mentioned they've struggled with some of these bad teams. I'm actually going to make a hockey reference in this situation.
Oh, right. I like it. I can't wait.
So there you remember, of course, Matt Cook,
yes,
who played for the Penguins.
Oh, yeah, pain in the ass.
Right. Yes. So the thing that fascinated me when I was out covering the Penguins for those years is Matt Cook, when you talk to him, was like the nicest guy in the world.
Kind of like Sean Avery.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Sean was a little, more edgy in interviews and stuff. Like Matt Cook was just this amazing guy, family man. And then he'd go on these month stretches where he was just out there grinding, playing great hockey, respectful. And then all of a sudden he'd lose his mind on the ice. And he'd send an elbow up into somebody's face, or he'd leave his feet, or he'd slew foot somebody, just out of nowhere. And you'd be like, what happened there?
And then there'd be a 3-game suspension,
right,
and then they'd have to fill it in with somebody else, and then the team's not the same.
Right. So that's the reason I make that comparison is those are two guys that I've seen that can go on these great stretches and be great players and be the person that they're supposed to be to put their team in the best situation. But then all of a sudden they lose it. And they lose it in a way that screws their entire team.
Yes.
And it's he never seemed to really figure it out.
But here's the other thing, man. How close are we to having one of these players just haul off and just sock one of these
referees?
Referees, man. I'm telling you.
I would not be surprised.
The NBA's got to put out an edict or something. I'm sitting here too, and I there were times last night where Julius was fouled and he wasn't called. It was kind of like what happened to Luka Doncic the night before. And I'm like, you know what? The NBA better put something out and better warn their players and their coaches that this is getting out of hand. I don't know. Is it? I don't know.
No,
if it's just me.
Is the contentiousness between. It's always been there, but I think it's the worst it's ever been. I mean,
it feels that way.
I mean, you're right. I mean, as we mentioned, we've seen things we've never seen before with these officials, including in that Dallas game. And now you got Julius Randle has to be held back physically from getting in an official's face. This is back-to-back nights in the NBA that this has gone on. So, I mean, I would not be surprised if you saw a bumping of an official or something, a pushing of them. Or
I mean, the officials have a union, I think.
I know the umpires do in baseball.
The officials union, whatever they have there, should be going to the league. Hey, man, this is getting out of control.
This is like turning into youth sports.
And you better do something about it. We want protection. And we want to be able to do our jobs without intimidation and without one of these guys just absolutely completely snapping on the court like, Julius did again last night. I don't take any great joy out of it. It's such a bad look, and I'm so tired of seeing it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that, these type of stories in the NBA are not good stories. I know that people say, well, all publicity is good publicity. I don't subscribe to that. I don't think that, like you said, you were so turned off by that last night that you don't want to go back to the game. So, I just, in the Luka Doncic thing and accusing the officials of being on the take.
Hey, look, we all are dedicated sports fans. We all, we get on the umpire for a bad striking call, ball call, whatever. Yeah. We get on the officials in hockey for missing a penalty or
we all hate Angel Hernandez.
Yeah, I mean we all have the same feelings. I know that, but I just at the end of the day, it's an impossible job. Games are moving fast. Guys are huge. We all want teams to be able to play. We don't want teams to always be sitting on the foul line or in the penalty box or being rung up by a ball that's out of the strike zone. We don't want to see that. We want to see more offense and we want to see more flow to these games. So we're all frustrated, me included. But that was a turnoff again last night. It was just a click. I'm done with it. I can't watch another meltdown by their best player, especially when their other best player is not playing.
He's going to have a great postseason because you're probably right. The amount of patience that the Knicks have had with him has to be running out.
When you run a team I'm sure Joe Douglas and Rob Saleh, the moment that Elijah Moore asked for a trade last year,
just a matter of time.
It was just a matter of time. But we get in this guy. He's not pulling everybody in the same direction. And I also wonder about some of the Jet running backs right now. Like, who are you guys to determine whether or not you want Ezekiel Elliott on your team?
We will get to that.
And why are you putting it out on social media?
Yes.
This is why I'm telling you, Lou Lamoriello should be running that team.
Maybe he will.
And the social media aspect of it. Hey, guys, off the social media.
Right.
Kind of like Belichick up in New England. Off the social media.
Off.
I don't know who
Delete
you think
the
you
apps.
are. We pay you to play football.
Yep.
And if we think a guy is going to help us, because two reasons. One, he scores inside the 5-yard line, which you guys did not do last year.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, he's a hell of a pass blocker.
Yeah.
He is a hell of a pass blocker. Now, I know that's not why you would sign running backs, but if you got to sign him for little to no money.
Yeah.
Then you want somebody to do what he does and does it well, because that was an area last year that you had problems with.
Sure. Yes. So we will get to more of that, the Jets and Zeke and Brees.